Visa rejected.
I've been crying and crying and crying and crying. It's just been panic attack over after another panic attack. It's like I feel like I'm going to die. And this was the first time I'd ever heard God's voice. Okay, and I was like, what? I just stopped and said, what just happened? Did I just hallucinate? What is going on? I cried out to the Lord and he heard me. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, yeah, thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I want to talk about something that's so dear to me. I want to just talk about and share the testimony of how God gave me a visa in 2023 when I was in China, you guys. I promised the Lord back then that if I'd come out of that terrible situation and traumatic situation alive, I was going to share and just to give him the glory and just to like encourage other people who may be going through something similar or just going through certain situations that they think are impossible to navigate and to go through, and just to like encourage and to just give God the glory. Like, yeah, so today I'm going to be talking about that. I just want to set the setting as to what was my how things were like at that time spiritually, and even just like the setting of like where I was living as well, and my state of mind. So I was in China at that time. And I was living on an island in China called Sanya. I was working and studying there. I was doing Chinese online, and yeah, and I was a very lukewarm, if I can say. I wasn't even like a baby Christian, because I think if someone is baby Christian, then they're like moving towards trying to get better, trying to get closer to the Lord, seeking the Lord. But I wasn't even seeking the Lord. Like, I was very comfortable in my sinful practices. And yeah, but today I'm going to be sharing about this testimony also because it kind of like is going to give anybody who will be following my story an insight as to how my journey with the Lord really started um as an adult. But yeah, so it started in May when I actually got expelled from my Chinese school. So just like I told you, I was living my life, everything was great, and then boom, all of a sudden, one afternoon, I received an email and it was saying like, "Oh, we have expelled you from our school. We're gonna cancel your visa, and yeah, come get papers for like a T visa." I say, "What?" And I got expelled because of my attendance at in January, because in January and February my phone had a problem, and some of the I wasn't able to attend some of the lectures. And yeah, I had 84% and they needed 85. Can you guys just think about that? I tried to beg the teachers. I tried to tell them, like, please, it's just 1%. I was attending. Maybe something is wrong. But also because I lived so far away, I do believe that perhaps if I was in Shanghai and if I would have gone to the school in person, maybe it was going to have a different effect. But anyways, I was so far away, and all I could do was try to reach out to the professors, but they were not budging. I even went into prayer. I went into fasting, prayer and fasting, because yeah, because it was just something that I knew that a lot of the times when I would go through situations like this that seem really impossible, I would always like, all my life I'd always seek the Lord. I would like pray and fast for like 3 4 5 days, and things would always turn around. But this time, this time God had something more for me. God was seeking more for me. It was time for me to grow up. So yeah, so that's just how everything just kind of started to fall apart. It started with me getting expelled from school. And the moment I received that email, you guys, I just broke down because I knew that it was a spiritual attack. My family had been suffering a lot of spiritual attacks for the first time in our lives, and we didn't really know how to handle everything. And yeah, but when that happened, I knew that I need to pray. I need to get on my Zoom. I need to start praying. I need to start fasting. And so, even though like I've gotten expelled, I begin to pray more. I begin every single day. I begin to pray every single day because I didn't used to do that before. I wasn't reading the word though. I would like to note. I was instead watching a lot of sermons. Like every single day, I would watch a sermon and pray, watch a sermon, pray. Every single day, I was fasting, and I told myself that I would only stop fasting when my problem has been solved, when now see like, I now see, um I now have a direction, I now have a solution to my problem. So I do want to emphasize that when I got expelled, when you're in China, like I want to emphasize again that it would mean that I don't have visa anymore and I have to leave China. However, I had not really seen anyone else go through something like this, something as such as like getting expelled from a school, so that such that like um I didn't really know what that really meant, because I didn't know if the immigration was supposed to call me to tell me that my visa has been canceled, or the police was supposed to tell me. But so yeah, so I didn't know the status of my visa. But in my passport it was stamped that my visa was supposed to expire on the 27th of July. Okay, so yeah, so at this point I am just like, oh no, this is bad. I'd also seen people around me go through visa problems, and I knew that this is bad, this is really really bad. So I start to look for schools. Like I said, I start to pray and fast. And I do get admitted into a school quite early on. And the procedure in China is that when you get admitted to a school, your documents are then taken to the government. They review them, and then um, they give you the documents for you to go to the visa office for you to extend your stay, right? And by the grace of God, I got the school just in time. I sent my documents were sent just in time, and I even managed to get this, like, visa papers, right, from the government. Okay, so, to me, I say this is perfect. The school calls me, they say, congratulations. You can come collect your visa papers. And this is perfect. And then I'm able to then go to the immigration, and I extend my stay, and voila, my problem is solved. I was excited. I was happy. I celebrated with the Lord because of course, you see, when you start to build a relationship with the Lord, when you start to seek the Lord, you will find Him. And in the position that I was at that time, I had grown, I had grown spiritually, like a little bit. So yeah, so I was so happy, and I was so grateful to the Lord that he had solved my problem. But also, really, like, I was still having those like mindset of like, yeah, the a sinful mindset. I was still like, I was not transformed. I was not transformed. I was not trying to repent. I was just trying to get a miracle. And when I got it, I was grateful and ready to head back to my normal way of living. But yeah, I do want to mention that around this time, my partner at that time, my boyfriend at that time, he moved to my city as well. So yeah, so things are kind of just like working out at this point for me. That's what I think. But um the week that I'd say that I'm going to go and get and collect the visa papers, somehow China just like changes the laws about this, and they say, well, never mind, you don't get your visa papers from your future school, from the school that have been admitted to. You're supposed to get your T visa papers from your previous school. And that's the school that's just expelled me. Those people don't want anything to do with me. They have just blocked me everywhere. So those people are not going to give me visa papers. And asked them, I need visa papers. I need T visas. They were like, the time for you to come collect T visa papers was written. You should come on the, I think it was written like you should come on the 15th of May. You didn't show up. And yeah, that's that. That's it for you. But still, like I'm telling you guys, it was in May, and my visa on my passport was expiring in on the 27th, and I didn't know the status of my visa, so I just continued to live life as normal. Like I thought, I don't know, yeah, everything is fine. And also I do want to mention that I was able to do everything with this visa that was in my passport, you guys. I was able to travel, to check into hotels. I was able to even go to the police and register my apartment, because for me to do my school applications I needed those documents. I was able to even get a school. You see this, like, so this documentation in my passport, it seemed quite valid, right? And so yeah, so I continue to live my life. Everything is fine. At this point I stopped fasting, but I'm still praying, because of course, like, things have not yet been completely settled. So now, fast forward, we're now in July, and now I'm trying to see like how I can now, where am I gonna get a T visa to connect me from July till September, because the semester starts in September, and I needed this. I would be needing a visa that's going to carry me for those few months, about a month in between, for me to now be able to get the visa papers from my new school, and yeah, and extend my stay and get that Chinese language visa. And this is where the wahala started, guys. This is where the problems started, because so first I try with the immigration in Sanya. I go there, I explain to them, so here I have admission. Can I have a T visa? They said no. That immigration has is the most, like, it's the harshest immigration center I've ever dealt with. They were like, no, we cannot give you anything. What is that? No, no. I tried to reach out to my new school, the dean, I think, or the lady who was in charge of us as foreign students. I tried to reach out to her. I begged her, and she was sincerely telling me, we can't do this for you. But I kept on pushing her, pushing her, pushing her. But she could not do this for me, and until I then decide, okay, fine, I can just go to Guangzhou and get the T visa there, because Guangzhou is a city that it has a lot of foreigners, and the system there has made it easy for foreigners to be in China because they'll be doing business. So it's quite easy to get a T visa that side. It's quite easy. And everybody had assured me, of course, you can just go to Guangzhou, get a T visa, like everything is okay. And I said, yeah, everything is fine. Okay. So I book my flight, I go to Guangzhou. The first time I start to apply, I went to the immigration center. They told me, but mind you, when I was not doing these TV things, I was using a agents, because I didn't really know how things worked, and because my state of mind was just kind of, and like, it was kind of like a mess. So I really needed the support. I needed the support. So yeah, so I'm working with these people. I go there, and the immigration officer tells me, well, I don't know what it is about your passport, but we are not able to help you here. It shows here that your old visa is from Shanghai. Go to Shanghai and get your visa there. And then I say, okay, no. Because I knew that if I'd go to Shanghai, I'm not gonna get anything. Okay, I said, maybe this immigration officer is just mean. So I book another appointment. And now I want to emphasize, you guys, the days on my passport are running out. This is a big issue. The days on my passport are running out. And so, but I was working on many other options. I was having meetings with other agents that would help me to do a business visa, things like that. I was talking to someone to help me to seek asylum, things like that. I was just trying to I have all my cards open. And as you can see like the manner in which I'm doing things, like it's all in my own capacity. I'm not seeking the Lord's counsel. And to be honest, also my head was in such a, it was just a mess, especially the first time, this time when my visa was getting declined. I couldn't believe it. Like, oh my gosh. So whenever I would go back to the hotel after that, like I would just start crying. I was just crying all the time because I literally felt like everything that I'd built my entire life, it was just like crumbling before my eyes, and there was nothing I can do about it because yeah, my visa, the days of my visa were running out and I don't have T visa. What's going to happen to me? You know. Anyways, but I was still fairly hopeful when I booked the second immigration um date. Okay, so I go there now for the second time, and I think this time they say no as well. So now I'm like, this is bad. The next time, and then I now book for another one, and they say no. They say go to Shanghai. I say no, no. And also I was like, no, 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 let me try again here. But now this time the people I was working with, they advised me that we try to get what is called an exit visa. So my plan now was that I would get an exit visa, which is like 10 days, and just like get ready and now go to Malaysia. And instead, this time I was going to now start pursuing a business visa. So then I would go to Malaysia, I'd go to Malaysia, and I would now I would exit China and go to Malaysia and come back to China and begin, because when I'd come back to China, I'd come back with like a month of business. It would be a business invite. I had meetings with the agencies, and I'd gotten all the information, and I'd done all the research, and I was like, okay, fine. So I guess this T visa is a problem. I'm just gonna leave I'm just gonna leave this whole school thing, and now I'm going to be seeking for I'm now going to be working on getting a business visa. Okay, well, good, right? So that morning, and now I want you guys to understand that this is the day. That day was the day that the visa in my passport was expiring. Okay. So, okay, so I go to the immigration center. I have all the documents. I've booked a ticket. I've booked a ticket. I've booked everything to say I'm leaving China today. Can I have, or not today, I'm leaving China like soon. Can I have a few days of exit visa? I do want to emphasize that once you get an exit visa in China, guys, there's no going back. You need to exit. There's no extending, even if you now get like, even if you don't have a bed record and you now get in, you have a school or you have another reason of stay, you have to leave. At least you have to exit and then come back. But yeah, so I say, yes, fine, I'm going to have to go to Malaysia. I knew that going to Malaysia was risky as well because I knew that my passport may have a bad record. I may not ever be able to re-enter the country, but hey, I just had to, you know, put my one step forward and just go for it. So I go to the immigration center. Man, we are scared. Even the agent that I was working with, she's scared. I remember, but it's okay. So we get there, uh, and lo and behold, the immigration person said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I actually cannot give you this visa here. You need to go to Shanghai." Goodness, at this point, I say, "Okay, fine. Let me just book my ticket and leave China this very day." So I leave there, and I just book my flight to Malaysia. And I was supposed to leave that evening. I say my goodbyes to my friends and my partner at that time. We are shedding tears. Okay, goodbye. And then and I check into the airport, everything. And now I'm just left with like passing by the immigration. And lo and behold, the immigration that immigration the person who said the immigration at the airport says is trying to enter my information, and all of a sudden she's like, wait, something is off about your visa. You can't go. We can't. We are. I'm not able to let you through. I say, what's going on? And then they made me sit in a small room, like a police room or something. And then they now started to investigate my case. And as they're investigating, that's when they were like, wait, your visa is not valid. I say, hmm? They say your visa has been cancelled and you have overstay of 2 months. I say, what? You guys. So now at this point, I'm just there like, am I gonna get arrested? What's going to happen to me? Am I getting arrested? Am I getting deported? Like, what's going to happen to me, guys? But the people, they gave me an option. They were like, do you want to pay the fine now, right now, 10K, 10,000 RMB right now? Or you want to go to Shanghai and pay this fine there. But the way things were looking and the way that everything was taking so long, like they were taking so long for them to find out this information, and they didn't want me to pay the fine there because the procedure for you to clear an overstay, it takes longer. It takes long, and also I could see my flight would. I was sure that the flight was going to leave before I'm able to clear this case. So at that time, I just took it as a sign of the Lord, from the Lord, that it was not a time for me to leave China. And indeed, it wasn't. So, yeah. So, anyways, I live there now. En route, I'm now going to Shanghai. But I do want to also emphasize that, guys, I don't have a valid visa now at this point. Now from here on out, this is the very first day that I start to leave, and even in my passport my visa is not valid. Okay. And I even asked the police officers, they to say, like, you guys are telling me to go to Shanghai, how am I going to travel with an invalid with documents that are invalid? And then they told me it's okay for flying. It's not actually it's not actually a big deal. Like, you can travel even if you don't have a valid visa. I say, oh, so hey, this is a piece of information out there. If you ever are in a situation similar to this, or somebody asks, you are able to travel even if your documents are not good. But yeah, so I make my way to Shanghai. Finally, I was exhausted, you guys. Yo, I'd been crying, and I couldn't. I wasn't able to pray. I wasn't able to do anything. I was just in panic mode. And like I said, I was just operating on my own understanding. But I do but my and so when I go to Shanghai now, my friends are kind of responsible, trying to help me to get a hotel, to check in, because hotels do care if your if your passport, if your visa is expired, they care. So my friends are helping me, and I do want to mention that the people in my life at that time, my family, my friends, like, they were so supportive. Everybody was calling me every single day. My friends from home, like, it was just amazing. The support, I really felt like I had so much support during that time, and praise the Lord, because I needed I needed it. Anyways, okay, so now I am now finally in Shanghai. I know I need to clear this overstay. Guys, now I'm in Shanghai. And then so the very first day I wake up, I go to the immigration center. I'm thinking that, and I want to guys I want you guys to understand also that the agents and everybody who I'd been talking to, they told me that when I told them that, oh, I have 2 months overstay, those guys literally told me that, well, because I was asking what's going to happen to me, what's the next step, and the people were just like, ish, at this point, you may get arrested for a few days, you may get deported afterwards, you will have to pay a fine. So this is what I'm just thinking, that hey, I may get arrested, it's possible. I may get deported, it's possible. But either way, this situation is bad. So I go to the immigration center, and guys, I kid you not, this process took so much time. To clear overstay was just a hassle. It took so much time because when I got there, I had to go to different immigration centers until I found the place that, okay, this is the place that my case was going to be addressed. And now it's like a Thursday, right? And when I get there, I meet these officers. When I get to this specific immigration center in Shanghai, it was in Minhang to be specific. I meet these two immigration officers, and then I explain to them my case. And then they were like to me, you should go to Sanya. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to be back to Sanya, because in Sanya they'll tell me to come back here to go to Shanghai. Everybody has been telling me to come to Shanghai. I'm not going anywhere. You guys, like, no, I'm gonna fix my problem here. If I have to go home or get an exit visa or something, I am doing it here. Okay. And then they said, okay, fine. So if you're going to do it here in Shanghai, this is our deal. If we're gonna take your case in Shanghai, you need to book a ticket that shows us that you're leaving China and you need to leave China, and we're only going to give you 10 days exit visa after you pay your fine. This is it. I begged them to say, please, can you give me 14? Because at this time, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to start to seek for asylum, because that would be the only way for me to be able to remain in the country. And these guys, the police officers are like, nope, we're only giving you 10 days, 10 days. And then I finally say, okay, fine, fine. So where can I sign? Where can I pay? They're like, nope, you need to come back. I think this was not a Thursday. This was on a Tuesday. And they tell me you need to come back on Monday. And then by then, that's when we're going to have the documents that you need to sign, and you're going to be able to pay the money and apply for your visa, for your exit visa. Guys, where was I going to be staying from Tuesday to Monday? I don't have a valid visa. Which hotel is going to take me in? But anyways, I think at this time, that's when actually went to live with my friend for the weekend. She lives in Hangzhou, so it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I think maybe I will show some videos of us and the time that I spent there. Yeah, but anyways, now Monday or Tuesday. I think I'm not sure if it was Monday or Tuesday that I was supposed to meet them. And yeah, I'm just going through a horrible time. But at this time, I think I'd already paid the money, and I'd already started the asylum seeking process. Okay. All right. So now I'm there, and is it? Mm-hmm. Now I get there, and lo and behold, guys, those those immigration officers, they were not there. They were not there that day. Instead, I met one. There was one guy. He was older, and he had told me that, oh, it's okay, it's okay. You need to wait. So I did wait. Hey, man, I was now living at that immigration center. Like, I lived there at that point, because I used to spend the entire day there, and everything was dragging. But I finally was able to get my papers around 3 p.m. The papers I was supposed to sign, the documents, and guys, those men were not there, the horrible ones, the ones that had told me that I need to book an exit visa and leave. They were not there. Instead, there was this man, and he gives me these documents, and on the documents it says that I am allowed to stay for 30 days. My punishment was that I was supposed to pay fine, and I'm allowed to stay for the next 30 days. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. Hmm. I could not believe it. Like, God is faithful. I came from this. You guys, I don't know if you guys are understanding that. I was supposed to be arrested. I was supposed to be deported. But instead, I just I get fined, and then I get a visa extension of 30 days. I'm allowed to stay in the country. Like, I couldn't believe it. But anyways, I signed, but I couldn't believe, literally I couldn't believe it. So, like, I was like, you know what, I only believe it when I see the visa stamped in my passport, because at this point, no. Right. And the next day, I managed to do everything. And mind you, like what I'm telling you guys, those two officers were not there. They were not at the office during the times when I'm now doing these things this week. So yeah, and by the grace of God, I'm able to apply and get 30 days. But actually, when I went to apply for the visa with the documents, having have settled my fine and everything, I remember even that the immigration officer that that I saw there, he wasn't willing to give me 30 days. He was like, no, you need to leave. You need to leave. You don't have a reason of stay. But then that's when that admission that I got in Sanya, it came in handy because I gave it to him and I said to him, look, I have reason of stay. I have a school. I'm supposed to start I'm supposed to start the semester this September. Can I have T visa? And he even refused still. But I don't know what happened. Like, God just has his ways. But I left for a second to just to buy an envelope. And when I came back, he was like, okay, I can give you 30 days. It's fine. And then boom, he stamped the visa. I got my receipt, and guys, I left there and I was just like, and I was so exhausted and drained from this entire experience. And I just booked my flight for Sanya that very evening and I headed to the airport. But you guys wouldn't believe when I was at the airport, right? I received a call. I received a call from those police officers. And those two police officers that I met that had told me that I have to leave China or else nothing. One of them calls me and then he's like, hey, how many days did you get? Did you not apply for visa? I say, yes, I did. I settled everything. And then he's like, how many days did you get? And I said, I got 30. And then he was like, no, 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 no. Come back to the immigration office right now. You're not supposed to get 30. We are canceling that application. And then I was like to him, I'm in a flight. I'm boarding a flight back to my city, back to Sanya. I can't come back right now. And then he was like, yeah, well, anyways, you have to come in the next 7 days, or because your visa is going to be only for 10 days. So if you don't leave China for 10 days, then you're gonna be overstaying. You need to leave. You need to I was just like, okay, 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 goodbye. ah, him. And then I cut the call. But so at this point, I don't know. I don't know. Do I have 30 days? Do I have 10 days? Hey, I don't know. But I went to Sanya and I just wanted some rest, guys. I got some rest I get to rest for a few days because actually it was holiday at work. So it was really convenient. I got to rest and really from this point onwards, I started to go out more. I started to visit like the places that I wanted to visit because I knew that I don't know how many days I have in this country, okay? So I need to, yeah, I may as well just enjoy and cherish the last few moments here because it's looking quite, yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. So I just started going out. Anyways, by the grace of God, again, my visa actually comes out in this damned 30 days, guys. The devil is a liar. It's damned 30 days. And I'm excited. I'm so happy. I think I even wrote, "Hey, I'm God's favorite" on my Instagram. But everything is now fine. I'm able to now apply to my school in Sanya, and I'm able to get that what is it, that Chinese visa, and everything is now Gucci, right? Everything is now good. Mm. Yeah, I didn't know that I still have some character development to do. But to be honest, I understand. But okay. Okay. So now it's time to fast forward. It's time for me to now apply for my Chinese language visa. I go there, I get the papers, everything is good. I go to the immigration, I apply, everything is good. Excellent. I even do a little dinner. I think I will post the pictures here. I would even do a little dinner to just celebrate, awesome. Everything is going well, praise the Lord. But I do want to emphasize again that I just kind of like gotten back to old cycles somehow, because just like what I said, I don't know. I think up until this point, I hadn't really grown spiritually that much. I had taken steps forward, but I hadn't really grown spiritually that much because the whole situation was so traumatic. It was too much. I did not have the mental capacity for me to even seek the Lord. hear his voice, seek him, God forbid, hear his voice. I could not even fathom the idea of being able to hear God's voice. But yeah, so I remember the day before everything kind of now just started to unravel again. I even went into prayer and I was like, Lord, really, I was like, Lord, I want your will to be done in my life. Your will, your will, your will. I was living in sin, but still, like, I really was like, I want God's will to be done in my life, you guys. And the next day, it was a good day, simple day, living my life. The immigration center calls me and then they told me, you need to come to the immigration center right now. And I want you guys to understand that when they called me to say this, I was left with 2 days until the visa, that T visa that I'd gotten, would expire. So now the immigration calls me and then they were like to me, well, we're so sorry, something about your visa, you don't meet the requirements, we have bad record, we're not able to extend your permit, your resident permit. And I do want to also clarify that I had cancelled my asylum the moment I was able to get the 30 days visa, because now I was now pursuing the Chinese visa route. You guys, you guys have no idea. Now I'm just like, what? I now my mind is just like, I was supposed to do asylum. I keep getting disappointed. What is this? I should have just been seeking asylum and be done for it. So I remember I even went there. I went to the and then those guys told me, come collect your passport now. We're not able to give you any visa. You need to book your flight and leave for Guangzhou today and leave China. Like, how are you gonna call me on a Tuesday and tell me, well, go back to Africa? Like, what do you mean? Like, give me some time. Give me a man or like 15 days exit visa, something. They were like, they can't even give me that. They give me 3 days to say now go to Guangzhou, but 3 days aren't enough. So yeah, but then and then I went through a very tiresome back and forth with them, and I even had to get my Chinese school involved, and I had to contact my teacher and say, please, this is what happened, can you please give me any documents so that I can be able to just get a few more days for me to leave. Okay, so now I go there and they stamp for me 7 days, guys. They stamp 7 days T visa in my passport. They're like, you need to leave. So around this time I start to speak to one lady. I started to speak to one lady, and that lady is from she owns a she's an agent. Okay, she helps people and foreigners to get T visas. So I just started to speak to her. I'd always had a number, but like I just started to speak to her, and I tell her my situation, and she was like to me, I know if this is going to work out, but it may be able, like, things, I may be able to help you, but I don't know if it's going to work out. And she was very stingy with the information as to what type of visa this was and how everything was going to work. I think it's because the process to get this graduation visa is quite simple, so she was afraid that if she'd give me all the information, I was going to go ahead and do it by myself. But it was something that is like, I would never do that. I need support. I would never ever do that. But anyways, so I wasn't sure if I should trust her, because I was also even scammed like along this journey as well. Like, someone took my money for nothing. So I'm not really sure at this point. I'm not really sure like what I should do. I don't know if I should work with Eva. The agent she was called Eva, and I kept on asking the Lord and asking him. But I do want to mention that at this point I was getting a little bit more involved with the things of the Lord. I think around this time, it was in October. This is around end of September, October, and I began to read the Bible. And reading the Bible kind of changed everything. This is when I actually started to grow in
like spiritually. So I start to read the book of John, and I'm not watching sermons as much. I am kind of like reading the Bible, praying, just spending time in prayer, just in prayer more. Okay. So yeah, so and now at this point I'd reactivated my seeking at my asylum case, and at this point I am just I'm seeking for these asylum things, and I'm also just going through trying to see my options, trying to weigh my options. Okay, after I got those 7 days from Sanya, I now went to Guangzhou to extend to get a T visa, because although I was seeking asylum, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want my passport my visa to get expired, because I was really afraid of that. I was really afraid of that. So my life just became going to Guangzhou, getting T visa, going to come back and forth, and also I do want to mention that in Guangzhou they were only giving 15 days max. They would only give you 15 days, and these 15 days are inclusive of the days of processing the visa. Okay, so if I would go there on 1 October, my visa is going to come out and it's going to say it's expiring in maybe on the 13th of October. Okay, this is how the situation was like. So I would have to travel every other 2 weeks to go there and to renew my visa. But every time I was going to Guangzhou, I would be forced to spend like 2 days there, because just that's how it works. And I started to pray more. At this point I was no longer frantic or fearing or in panic mode. I had kind of just adjusted, and I learned to just start to take life day by day. And yeah, so I would spend time in prayer. I would watch testimonies, I would listen to gospel music, I would cry out to the Lord, I would seek the Lord's counsel, and he was carrying me through, you know, even the strength that I had for me to keep on saying, good, no, I'm not overstaying, I'm renewing my visa. Like, it was actually quite supernatural. Most people would just give up on it, but I was like, nope, I'm going to persevere. And yeah, so now I remember this. Yeah, so now one day it was actually in September. It was in September, because I was around 16 September there. I was on my way to tell it was my ex-boyfriend's birthday, and I was on my way to like put some deco for his birthday in one hotel, and I was in the car. I just come from Guangzhou from renewing my visa, and I was just worshiping. Okay, I was in an Uber on my way, and I was just worshiping. I remember I was listening to a song called "Surrounded by Holy," and it's by it's called "Surrounded by Holy," and I was crying, and I felt so unworthy of everything that God had been doing for me, because I knew I was under spiritual attack, and I knew that God had intentionally moved for me to even be in China in this very moment. And I was just looking outside, it was beautiful, and I was just so grateful. And in that place of just like being repentful, being vulnerable, like I heard a strong voice, and that voice said, text Eva. And this was the first time I'd ever heard God's voice. Okay, and I was like, what? I just stopped and said, what just happened? Did I just hallucinate? What is going on? And I continued to worship. I continued to worship, and then the voice came again, text Eva. It was coming from inside of me. This voice, it says, text Eva. And the more I was trying to ignore it, the more it came. And then it began to like come like again and again and again, like, and then it began to say, text Eva. And it was like now like almost like scary and tormenting, and at this point I'm shaking, I'm trembling. And then I said, and then I just wanted to stop, and then I said okay. I literally said out loud, I said okay, and then it stopped. I was, I was really confused because I didn't know, is this the Lord? Because at this point I was only first starting to understand that they're evil spirits, and I'm like, is this an evil spirit? What is it? What is going on? So yeah, but then I actually go and I go ahead with my day. We celebrate, and the celebration that I had planned. But then that night I called Eva. I actually texted Eva, and then I paid the money that she needed me to pay, and that's when I began the process with her. And yeah, but I just want you guys to understand how I was living in sin, and I was doing a lot of sinful things, but God still had a plan for me, and God still heard my cries. Like in the middle of darkness, I cried out to the Lord, and He heard me. I cried out to the Lord, and He heard me. Like in my sin, like in my undeservingness, like I cried out to the Lord, and He intervened. Afterwards, right, I now began to take all the steps to get all the documents off that I needed for me to apply for this visa. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work out. And mind you, I'm also still seeking asylum, and the thing about asylum things is that they block everything else you're trying to do. So naturally this visa, it was impossible for this visa to even come out, because my name was registered as an asylum seeker. But God just has a way. Like when God gives you a word, it's going to come to pass. Like God is not a man that He should lie. He's not a man that He should lie. So now, even though I wasn't sure if I was going to go through with everything, every single time I would be supposed to do maybe a health check in Guangzhou for this business visa with Eva. It would also be the same time that my T visa is expiring, and I have to go to Guangzhou anyways. So everything just fell in place. Everything fell in place in such a way that I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't have to go out of my way to pursue this graduate visa. But at the end, I then went to the immigration office, and I remember even going to the immigration office on the day to now apply for this visa. And I remember that they didn't even know what that type of visa was. They didn't know anything about this graduate visa. But I just give you a bit of information about it. But it's a visa for people who have just graduated that year. So if you've just graduated, you're able to just like you're able to just come up with a business plan and do a health check and go to your local immigration center and say, hey, I want to start a business. Can I have a 6-month extension? And yeah, voila, that's just all you need to do. So yeah, so those guys, they didn't even know what this visa, because I remember even going with my documents, and they were like, we don't know what visa this is. This seems too simple. We can't give you a visa because you have an idea. You need to have a proper company. You need to have a proper company license, things like that. But the lady that I found there, she was so helpful. She was like, okay, look, I'm going to ask my boss. The boss takes like a few hours to come, but they go through the books and the documents. I don't know, a lot of documents that they have that have information about procedures, and at the end they're like, oh yeah, it's a thing, we found it. And then they apply for me using and they were following all the steps, and then they apply for me. And I'm sure I was the first person that they have ever applied for this graduate visa. And yeah, and I'm just in prayer. Guys, that's when I started to, that's really the time when I saw the Lord. Like, I came to understand that God is real. Like, God is real. And the darkness does not have power. Like the Bible says, the light shone and the darkness could not comprehend it. Or other versions say the light shone and the darkness could not overcome it. And I came to really understand, like, all that fear that I had, like, oh, spiritual warfare, oh, I'm being attacked. Like, I really came to see that no, like, God is the King of Kings. Okay, He is the King of Kings. And I was fasting and praying. Actually, this visa required me to be in Guangzhou for like 7 days. So I was in Guangzhou for 7 days, and I was living in one hotel, and I just took this time to isolate, to fast, to pray, to seek the Lord. And you guys, that time was so good for me. It was so good for me. Of just how my journey now began with the Lord. I now just began to constantly, like, afterwards I got my visa. I now went to collect my visa. Everything came out. I remember even telling the guy who was helping me to seek asylum, and he couldn't believe it. He said, what? That's supposed to be impossible. How do you have a visa? That's just the story of how God supernaturally gave me a visa in China, you guys. He just brought someone from God knows where. Everybody that I met, right, when I was now walking with the Lord, they were so, when I was walking in alignment with the Word of God, everything was falling into place. I did not have to break my back for anything. Everything just fell into place, and I had strength to pursue everything. And yeah, so I just wanted to share this just to encourage anyone who may be going through a lot of attacks, or maybe it's spiritual, maybe, like, I don't know, some demonic things, or somebody who's just going through even just like a tough situation in life. And I just want to encourage you and say, like, seek out to the Lord, no matter what situation you're in. Even if you're a sinner, even if you're in the middle of sin, even if you're like wherever you are, like, reach out to God, and he will save you. Like the Bible says, knock and you will it shall be open unto you. Knock on the door of God, and He will open up to you. He will help you, and He's the only one who can actually help you, guys. So yeah, so this is my testimony, and I hope that it encourages and it helps somebody out there. I hope that it just inspires you to seek the things of God. So yeah, so this is actually just basically when I started to actively now seek out to say, hey, what does God like? I don't want to upset the Father. And then I started to read the Bible more, and I just started to now learn about God, like, who is He, you know, not because I want a miracle, because at this point God had already now saved me. I already now had a visa and everything, but just to now to just worship Him, to just now start to build relationship with Him. And yeah, so I do encourage just anybody, and the thing is that I didn't just come from there and just become a perfect person, or like just like completely transform my life, but just God, like in my seeking, I found Him, and God just like held my hand, and like bit by bit I let go of certain things. I remember that time, that's when I stopped listening to secular music. That's when I stopped watching a lot of shows that were not good, just because, not even because I didn't want to watch shows, but because I wanted to dedicate more of my time to the Lord. And because between work and my social life, I had very little time to myself, and that little time, any time that I had, I would spend it in the things of the Lord. I believe here I received the Holy Spirit. There was an outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and in such a way that I was in love with God. Like I was seeking out for the things of the Lord. I was seeking out for the things of the Spirit, and it was so easy. It was so natural. You know, when I would pray, I had strength to pray. And yeah, so that's my testimony, and I hope that it encourages someone. I hope it encourages someone in whatever situation, whatever sin you're living, anything. Still seek the Lord with what you have, where you are, because at this point I wasn't doing great. I was still very sinful. I was still holding on to a lot of my sinful behaviors and habits and everything, but I took those small steps. They took me to where I am now, and I continued to take steps steps towards the light, and I continue to be sanctified by the blood of Jesus until I meet him. And yeah, so that's it for today, you guys. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching.